Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Greg, and I've got Jens in the background, and he's currently not in his normal studio today, so apologies if the production is not as polished as he normally likes. Hey, Jens, how you doing?
Hey Greg, hi everybody. I'm fine. I'm just in the hotel room, so please excuse the setup. Nothing like normal.
Yeah. So we're doing another Wirecast in the Wild. The goal of this is to just share with people what we've learnt and doing with Wirecast. Now, last week we had a look at the Wirecast 12 beta. Since then, the beta release has come out. You probably haven't had a chance to test yet, have you, Jens?
No, I was very busy this week.
Yeah. Okay. So where are you? What are you doing?
I'm currently in Vienna, and I attended today the MUM, the MikroTik user meeting. MikroTik is a network product vendor, and they had the user meeting here in Vienna, and it was great fun being around with all the network nerds. So yeah, love it.
Okay. So today we've got two things. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Wirecast 12, just a couple of bits and pieces that I've observed. And from your perspective, we're talking about networking today. So it's really good timing that you're at a place where you're looking at networking gear. What is MikroTik? Tell people what is MikroTik, because a lot of people may not have heard of that before.
Yeah, MikroTik produces routers, switches, Wi-Fi gear, even just the wavelengths foaming and all the stuff. So they are they've a few advantages, I would say. So first of all, it's bang for the buck. So you get very cool stuff for little dollars, and it's super robust. They have kind of ISP network level equipment, and also have consumer stuff. And what I like with them is they have developed their own, they call it router OS, so their own operating system based on Linux, with a nice GUI on top of it. And no matter what product you buy, the smallest or the biggest, it has all the same GUI. So once you know the GUI, it makes no difference what product you use. It's all the same, and that's you get very inside. You see all the stats, the data traffic, and so on and so on for each port. And yeah, I love
Okay.
it.
Okay, cool. So I use, and we mentioned this very briefly last week, I use Ubiquity Network Gear. It's an alternative to MikroTik. It's not one of the big names like Cisco, but certainly Ubiquity has grown up as another independent network vendor. Just to briefly share with people, when you're troubleshooting and debugging and trying to improve your network, tell me what's the number one thing that you would go to personally? So this is to do specifically with video production, and I have we haven't prepared this, by the way. I haven't told him what we're talking about yet. So while he goes and answers his stuff, I'm going to get something up on the screen in a couple of moments. Let's see how we go.
So number one to debug. I mean, first of all, it's the command prompt, I would say. Um, I try to ping stuff. I'm on Windows. I run an MTR, so a trace route, see if problems exist there. That's my very first one. Do a NS lookup, see if DNS is working. So this is basic networking stuff. But if it goes a level deeper, I usually build all my networks with MikroTik gear, and that's the first stop. So they have tool called Torch, so you can check really what communication is going on at what port.
Yeah.
So
So
I hope.
I didn't prep you for this, but let me switch it. This is my number one thing that I would check anyway. And I don't use MikroTik, I use Ubiquiti. They're two different alternative vendors. But just putting this on screen at the moment, this is a dashboard from my network infrastructure. And there's something that you would actually see standing out there. I don't know if you can read it, Jens, because you know, Rendezvous is not always high res at the remote end. But there's a number in the right-hand column, RX errors, and that number 621,609, RX errors on the switch. For those people who are trying to troubleshoot a network, number one, this is me, this is my rule. Number one, get a managed switch, something that you can log into and you can have a look at the statistics that it's gathering about your network. In this case, that port goes to my daughter's Apple TV. I know it's got a dodgy cable, but she's of the point where she doesn't watch TV anymore and she only watches her iPhone. So we've never got around to fixing it. But this is really important. When you're troubleshooting a network for television, for broadcast, you want to know what is it that you can, what data you can get, and that points very, very quickly to the root cause of a problem. You've got similar things, I would assume, in MikroTik?
That's right. Yeah, I struggle bringing up a screen capture. Sorry. It's not the RX errors in particular. I look for. I look for outstanding stuff. So with the MikroTik stuff, you have real-time data, which is very good. You can troubleshoot almost everything. You can check what's sent it out on the firewall, on different ports, whatever. So you can nail it very down to what you're looking at and get to the essence. Let me allow a minute, and I hope I can share a screen of a MikroTik user interface.
Just while you're looking there, I'll just share my thinking as to why I picked this screen. And, you know, again, we haven't prepared this. Jens is traveling. Normally, we would have had a chat beforehand and said what we're talking about. But layer one in the OSI model is the physical layer, the physical cable. Now, you can check the physical cable. Is it plugged in? Layer two, in this case, is errors, those error counters that are increasing because of a problem at layer one. Then you can go up to layer three and you can be pinging a destination looking for the responses. Those responses will be, if you're troubleshooting at layer three, it's already going to be going via a router. So that could be a router. This is just checking your local connection between two devices before it hits a router. Your ping, that's going to go and check over the WAN going via one or more routers. And if that's dropping out, that can be indicative of an ISP problem. And you can certainly use other tools, your trace routes and what have you, to try and debug where those are at. But the other thing that's useful as well is having a look, if your device has it, is CPU statistics on your router. If your router is running high CPU, that can be the cause of it dropping packets. How are you going with your screen capture there?
Yeah, I need to set up some shortcuts so I can control it over my phone.
Okay. No problem. So while you go and have a look at that, and again, apologies today. This is we moved this broadcast a little bit later to give some time for Jens to get back from the event that he was at. But let's talk about Wirecast specifically. Let's go into Wirecast and talk about what statistics you can get in there. And if I get, let's do this. Within your Wirecast system, if you go to Output and Show Statistics, and I'll just switch what screen it is that I'm capturing. And I'll get that window up. Where are we? Output, Show Statistics. from a networking perspective, number one, how much traffic are you sending? Now you can see that we actually had a network hit just a short while ago. I'll see if I can scroll back over to that. So when YouTube is buffering, and you know, that's the famous word that people say, YouTube is buffering. What does that mean? That means that it's pausing because of a network related problem. We had a network related problem here where for some unknown reason, Wirecast was sending 5 megabits per second, even though I've got it configured to 1.25 megabits per second. Now, we spoke about that before. That's a bug that exists in some of the Apple code that's used by Wirecast. But what was the output of that? It caused the RTMP queue to go up high. In this case, it only went up a little bit, but it recovered from that very quickly, and we continued on. So let me get back to you now, Jens. I don't know if that could actually be seen. I was watching my screen instead. Let's try that one more time, and I'll get ourselves out of the way. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Output and show statistics. So these are the Wirecast output statistics again. The purple line is the RTMP queue size. So how much are we not sending to YouTube because we've got to keep it locally? In this case, that was only 800 milliseconds, so that wasn't too bad. But what was interesting was the bit rate went up to 5 megabits per second. My internet link here has a maximum capability of 5 megabits per second. If it had gone any higher, we would have been dropping packets. So if you're having trouble with broadcasting, and it doesn't matter if you're using Wirecast or if you're using OBS or vMix or anything else, if you've got data that can show you your actual bit rate that you're sending out your network, this can point to where there is a problem. If you're sending more than you can send, well, that's going to not end well for anyone.
Okay, let me try to switch to my screen. Do you see the desktop capture right now?
No, I've still got your camera.
Sorry.
Okay, so while that's happening, I'll let you continue to play. And what I might do just for a little while is talk about the Wirecast 12 that we briefly reviewed last week. We had a look at the beta, and we came up with a couple of bugs that we were looking at. One of which was the QR code. There we go, we have your desktop. So let's make that full screen.
Yeah, and then I can, okay, perfect. I can just show you the UI. So this is the so-called Winbox. It's, sorry, Greg, it's Windows only, so nothing for the Mac. But you can open the same in the browser. You see, in the session, I connected to the MAC address so that I can play with change IP addresses and stuff like this. So what you see is it's a just 5-port router, and I show you my little setup here. Hopefully you okay. Yeah, feedback loop on my end. Sorry, I would just, it's a 5-port router. So standard config is there's either one is used as a WAN connection, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5 are added to the bridge. There's a bridge, so everything that's in the bridge is acting like a switch, to keep it very simple in terms of MikroTik. And then you see 2 wireless connections, one the 2.5 and 2.4 and 5 gigahertz one. And you obviously I'm connected to the 2.4, and you see traffic here. I don't know if it's how good or detailed you see. And I've connected.
Let me see if I can zoom that for you a little bit.
So you see the TX, you see the RX, you see the actual package. So this is live. My notebook is connected to Ether 2, so you see that I receive 100 megabits and I send 2 megabits roughly. What is the 100 megabits? So in a normal setup, this looks very high to me, 100 megabits. But this is going out on Ether 3, and that's where I connected a BirdDog NDI source encoded. I put it to decode mode. So no input. So this is I'm sending the program feed to the BirdDog, and this uses 100 megabit per second roughly. You can do a lot of things here. There's a main menu on the left, and the most obvious is the IP. You can look into the ARP table. You can look into the addresses. So this is very basic stuff. So the bridge has address 192.168.88.1 and so on and so on. You can add addresses for different ports, whatever. Create a new bridge. So there are no. Oh, bless you.
Pardon me. I did mute that going to air, but you heard it still. Sorry about that.
You can have DHCP clients. Usually on port Ether 1, there's a DHCP client. You see this is in red because I haven't connected anything there. You have DHCP servers as well, so you can have VLANs, you can whatever. You see there's just one DHCP server. It's running on the bridge interface. And you can see the leases. So you see here this Android.
So let me challenge you, Jens. Like hypothetically, all networking equipment, no matter what it is, one way or another, you'll be able to configure it, have a look at leases, all of that kind of stuff. What is it specifically about video production that you would find? What are the winning features in the MikroTik from a video production perspective?
The winning features is the system in general. It's so flexible. I can set up routes. A very winning feature is the routing table. Mm-hmm. So you see here, this is it has already 2 routing tables. I can add routing tables. I can add routes to whatever I want to. If I set a route to Google using Ethernet 3 or whatever, I can do it. So that's the destination address. I just type in something. I don't know. I can select the gateway. I can say, okay, this traffic should go out on Ether 5. And I can check the gateway. I can add costs to it. So if I check the gateway with a ping, and I have a cost of 4. So what this does is if there's a cheaper route to it, then it uses the cheaper route. If not, it uses, and it checks the gateway Ether 5 with a ping. So you see it's in blue now. This is not active. The only active one is this here. It's the bridge interface. But
okay, can we go back to your camera just for a little while? So just from my perspective, you know, I've been in networking all my life personally, and all of the geeky stuff, every device, no matter which manufacturer it's going to be, is going to have a way of doing this. Nice user interface, sounds really good. For me, and like I said, this is just my opinion, and there's lots of people who do networking. Whenever I troubleshoot something, doesn't matter if it's video or voice or whatever, start at the bottom, start at layer 1. It's sending 1 megabit per second of traffic. We had some of those lovely spikes a couple of moments ago when I transitioned. But the RTMP queue has gone back down and looks pretty healthy, so I don't know why it went red. We're back again. So sending too much data, that's going to cause a network to drop traffic. Think of it as in terms of plumbing. You've got a pipe that can handle so much water being pushed through it. If you push too much water, and it's going to leak out the sides. I'm kind of mixing the metaphors a bit, but you get the idea. You're pushing too much water in and you're going to get a leak or spring a leak somewhere. It's the same with a network. I've got a 5 meg link. Sometimes Wirecast tries to send too much traffic and therefore I spring a leak and the packets get lost and don't get to the other end. That's what happens when you've got buffering. So those are the kind of things for me that I check and I look at. The only other one that's worth looking at, and this depends on your network environment, is QoS, quality of service, setting up QoS settings on your packets, or priority routing, right? So you were touching on this a moment ago, Jens, with cost of routing. So you can say, if you've got multiple routes, I'm going to send all my email out this route, which is a nice, reliable, slow route. Yep. And I'm going to send my data, my video only out this really expensive, low latency network and keep the two things separated. That makes it more predictable. Now, I'm going to share one more thing in a couple of minutes, and it's an interesting tool that I use for my own network, and I'm going to show you live what I've got on today. Who knows what we're going to find?
Yeah, just talking about routes, I think routes are very, very important. If you have more than one connection, I have to say, then routing makes really sense. I at home have a satellite dish, for example, used for data. So Ka band, satellite-based internet. This is horrible for browsing the internet because you have a very, very high latency. So from Earth to sky and back, it's roughly 700 milliseconds. That's speed of light. You can't lower it technically because that's just pure distance and speed of light. So browsing the internet with a latency of 700 to milliseconds up to a second is a nightmare. Every picture, every page, it loads forever. It's just no fun. Yeah. But for streaming, where you have a constant data stream, 700 milliseconds latency is acceptable. So if you have multiple connections available, I just set a route. If I stream to YouTube, I ping the RTMP address of YouTube. It returns a IP address. I type in the IP address in the route. Please send all the traffic to this IP address over the second WAN connection on either 3, 4, 5, whatever device you have. And then you can stream on that interface and browse the network on
another one.
Yeah. On another one. So you can separate traffic with routes. And I think that's very, very important in terms of streaming. And I mean,
that is a really, really good one because a lot of people don't get it. I'll give you an example for me. And I'm not doing split routes at the moment. I just turn off everything else. But I recently got a second router device, which is a 3G backup for my primary internet. So at some point in the near future, I'm going to go and reconfigure that to go and, during streaming only, send the non-streaming traffic over the 3G. and I'll use my 5 meg service for the normal video traffic. But let me go quickly to the diagram that you can see in the background there. Pardon me. This is a tool called SmokePing that I use. I find this really, really helpful. The graph you're seeing at the top is real-time data it's from the US, from a server that I've got in the US to my location here to my router. So it's constantly averaging, close to 200 milliseconds. That's okay. If I was measuring it the other way and measuring from my location here to the YouTube RTMP, that value would be lower. But I'm not using this as a measure of how well I'm getting to YouTube. This is my overall network performance. Now, if you have a look, sometimes in there you see a blue color. And if I go, let me see if I can scroll this. Down the bottom here over the last 400 days, you can see that the color at the bottom there has changed. And unfortunately, there we go. So it's seeing that there was a problem every polling interval that it's looking at over there. And the blue color is telling you 1 in 20 packets during that window didn't reach their intended destination. Now, when you have an outage over here, same kind of thing, you're going to get those colors. It's a really cool, free, open source tool. And have a look over here. Happening right now, we've had a bunch of little blue things where 1 in 20 packets were not received from their destination. Why? Those are probably the times when we went up to 5 megabits per second due to Wirecast. This is all really geeky propeller head stuff, but useful information, I think. Have you ever played with SmokePing? Have you seen that one before?
I've seen this kind of thing from the router itself. So the MikroTik has a graphing functionality. So you see you see graphs for CPU, for each interface, whatever you want to see in a graphing environment, you can do. It has not the from outside to inside view. It just has the local view. But you see high data output, whatever, on there. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Look, most router gear doesn't matter which manufacturer will have graphs of some sort. I just like to do it totally externally from that equipment, if that makes sense. But anyway, there's lots of tools. Let's get back to Wirecast. So the bugs that we talked about last week, we experienced these live during our broadcast. I want to quickly share the resolutions for some of those. So let me bring my screen up if I can. Which window? This one. There we go. So one of the problems we had last week was I was unable to change this. I changed it initially to cross dissolve, and then I was unable to change it back to smooth. I actually found the root cause of this. Pardon me again. The root cause of the problem is Wirecast has decided to add a new feature, and this problem actually hasn't been fixed fully. It was fixed in the preferences, but it's still hiding there. So here's the problem. Let's say I go and change this to cross dissolve, and I temporarily change that to smooth, our third setting. And I go back over here now, and I go back to 2 transition buttons. What does that mean? Right now, I can't change this to smooth. The reason why, that third invisible button, which I'm not using, won't let you change it back to smooth. So they fixed the problem in the preferences file that's come out with the final version. But if, hypothetically, you go into preferences, you enable the third button, change it to smooth, then this one's going to be stuck again. You won't be able to change it back. So that's the first one. It's, like I said, it's fixed in the default data that comes with Wirecast, but not yet fully cleared up. The second one we had was one that you found which was the QR codes. Let's go and do that live.
So the funny thing is, I checked the announcements from Telestream, and they had a video on the QR code, and there it was inverted as well.
On their announcement?
On their announcement, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I tried to scan it, they put Telestream whatever in there, and I tried to scan it, and my phone couldn't scan. So it was inverted. That was the reason.
Okay. So let me go and do this. I'll send my screen live again, and we'll get rid of that for now. And we'll create a new shot. And QR code generator. And I'll put just that one into my preview layer to make it a little bit easier. And the properties for him. Google.com. Now,
and I think the QR code generator is nice, but it's so easy to generate a graphic in the internet. Yeah, you see the inner square has to be black and not white.
So this much I can tell you, and I haven't gone and done what you did and test it with, another generator, but I did generate one earlier today, and I pointed my camera at the code that was generated in Wirecast, and it worked. So this one, looking at this one, do you believe this one to be correct?
Let me scan this from the screen and try it.
I'll just send it full screen. There we go.
I think it's wrong because at my end, my phone couldn't scan it. The inner square you see the three corners with the squares that don't change if you type text. The inner one is white. Then there's a black border, and then there's a white border. Yeah. Usually this is upside down, I would say.
This much I can tell you. I just scanned this right now with my iPhone, so not sure if.
Yeah. It might be app dependent, but usually, if you do the same on the internet, just open a QR code page. Type the same, the graphic is inverted, and I think this is for a good reason.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I can tell you it does work on an iPhone. Maybe their testing that they did was with Apple devices, so perhaps that bug still needs to be resolved to be more universally compatible.
Well, nice finding. So I will check with my iPhone once I return and give it a try. Maybe the iPhone behaves differently.
Well, we all know iPhones are better than Android devices anyway.
Yes and no. Better for Apple, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let me go on to what else have we got left. So we've got the QR code, we've talked about networking. I do want to quickly just reiterate what we saw last week about the media library. I think the media library is absolutely awesome. And let me actually just quickly confirm. Wirecast media library. Hello, Don Coulter. Boo to you too. Where are we? It's popped a window over on the other screen. The media library, if I remember correctly, was stock media library end user license agreement. So the footage comes from Story Blocks, Video Blocks, Graphic Stock, and AudioBlocks.com. Grants you a perpetual, worldwide, limited, non-exclusive, transferable right to incorporate the stock files you obtain from us to work, etc., etc., etc. So that's the good news, right? From a license perspective, you have the ability to use that media without being afraid of the YouTube copyright algorithm detecting you. You have a license agreement. Second thing is, just in terms of the size and the scale and the scope of that media library, I was absolutely knocked out. And I think, if I remember correctly, it actually commented somewhere how many, where is it, desktop, Wirecast?
Yeah, I think it's almost impossible to find something not in the library.
Here we go, that's what I wanted to see. Included with every active support subscription, and you get a support subscription for 1 year automatically with your Wirecast purchase. It's got a database that is growing and currently has more than 500,000 unique high quality media assets that you can use in your projects. So some people might be using, I don't know, Epidemic Sound and for their music files, and someone else for video files and what have you. To have this built into Wirecast, and the fact that it's $100 a year, you're getting your subscription to get updates, but you get the media library for free, is just absolutely incredible. So I'm really pleased about that. But this is what I called this show Wirecast in the Wild, because I wanted to tell the good, but also share some of the user perspective, the real in the wild kind of experience. Let me go and put my screen up again, and I'll tell you the bit that I'm not 100% happy with. So here's my Wirecast screen right now. I'm going in, I'm clicking plus. Up here I've got a media library, and where is it? Media files, stock media library. I've got to accept the terms again. Cool. Stock media library limitations with some destinations without a way to declare in advance that you're licensed, etc. This may result in your stream being taken down while live. Ooh, I hadn't seen that before, so it's important to accept those terms and conditions. Interesting.
That's a warning. In the release video, they explain.
I just lost you for a second. Sorry, say again.
Yeah, it was interesting. They hinted it in the release video as well, that you might be blocked on YouTube or Facebook because they have AI detection of content, and some of the content might be a false positive detection, and you might get blocked, or at least be on a whatever list to look closer or whatsoever.
Yeah. Look, the one thing I'd suggest there, if you're a YouTube creator, for example, you should absolutely put a link to the license, the Telestream license page, in your description of your video, and state that you're using media assets from this library, so that if YouTube ever flag you, you can just say, hey, I've got my license already listed in the description, go away. That'd be my suggestion. But let me get back to what I was looking at. So I'm going to go and create my shot again. Stock media library. Now let's say I'm doing something where I've got a 5-minute outro and I want a song that's going to be 5 minutes long. So we'll turn off the video. We don't care about that. We'll turn off the images. We don't care about that. Here's our audio. Now, you can't hear what I can hear at the moment. I'm listening to this music. I'll just pause it so I don't deafen myself. And that was the song that we used on our intro today. I don't know how long that is. I want to be able to filter something, and I want to say, oh, there it is, duration. I stand corrected. It is listed there. But let's say I want a song that is greater than 4 minutes and 50 seconds so that I can find it. At the moment, I've got to click on every single one of those to go and search that. Or if I want to search by genre, I want to search for country music versus you know, some background ethereal music, whatever style you want to search for. That I think is missing. You can search by the description. So if I type in acoustic, right, so we've got everything that matches the word acoustic in the description. That's good. But I think it can go one step further, and to be able to search by genre will be absolutely essential as we move forward. The second thing, I think there needs to be a rapid fire interface. So someone's doing live production and someone's talking about something, and all of a sudden you want the sound of a chicken. I want to be able to click on that chicken over there and have that fire without having to go and add that into another shot. So those are my two kind of where I think it should go in the future. And if we could have that kind of functionality, I think it'll definitely improve the user experience for some of these new features.
I agree.
Your thoughts, Jens, on the audio library?
First of all, I had a quick browse and everything I searched I could find at least content for. If it's more like the usual stuff. I mean, if you maybe search for JFK speech or whatever, you won't find it because that's very specific. But theme-based stuff you find easily. And this is the first version. We have access to it. I think.
By the way, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment, Jens, because this is really, really relevant. When you were talking and I clicked the plus button, and as soon as I clicked on Stock Media Library, I can't hear you anymore. So if you're talking to me now, and we can test this live, can you talk?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can't hear you. I can still see the VU meters on Wirecast working, so I know you're going to air, but I can't hear you. And just imagine we're in the middle of a live production now, and I needed to get that magic sound effect up, and all of a sudden I lose the ability to hear what my talent is saying. So that's another little bug that we found today. And just to be clear, we're not saying Wirecast, your product is bad. We're just highlighting the things that we're discovering as we find them out, and we know that you're going to have a look at these things in the near future.
And I just let me complete what I wanted to say. I think the media library is brilliant, to be honest. It's in version 1, and hopefully we see improvements with upcoming versions. Better search, better tagging. This is what you need. If you need a 10 minutes intro, whatever, you need to search different categories, different metadata, different text. And once that's there, I think that's it just blows me away. So it's so huge, it's so good. You find good quality, even 4K stuff. Lots of it. So very, very good move from Telestream.
Yeah.
With improvements.
We're on the same page. It's really, really good. We're on the same page in that respect. Let me move on to one other one, and we spoke about this briefly last week, as the Rendezvous Audio. They've done some really, really good things. Earlier today, we discovered an example of something that was a challenge. I was coughing my lungs out, and I pressed the mute button for me, which meant that didn't go to air. However, you could still hear me coughing, Jen. So the challenge is program out, I think, is still not working. And while we're here, let's test this today. Wirecast Rendezvous dashboard. I've currently got it set so you can hear this specific microphone. I'm going to switch that over to live output from Wirecast in the wild. This did not work in the beta. I haven't tested this. Let's do it live now. And I'll remove my microphone. Now, you may not hear me in a minute. Just tell me if you can.
It's terrible sound. It's echoing. That's what I hear on my end. in the rendezvous dashboard. So what I look at is your feed. I see you in front of the green. I don't see the program feed, which is fine with me. And now I hear nothing. It's dead silence on my end. It's just maybe not doing what it should do.
So right now, I'll just share with you. Right, let me go and share my desktop so that we can look at this live. Just a moment. So,
now I get the program.
Oops, wrong computer. That's my Tidler computer. Let's do that one. And we'll go output, window rendezvous dashboard. Now, earlier on during this broadcast, this is how it was set up. You were hearing the Rode microphone, so the microphone that I've got down here. What I'm going to do now is I want to send the document audio, including this microphone, to you. So I'm going to mute this Rode.
Yes, now I hear nothing. I can confirm. I have no audio. So I see a desktop and no audio from me. So it's silent. Maybe I talk over you. Sorry.
Now, here's an interesting thing. At the period when I had activated live output from this document, I was looking at the VU meters, and not only were you not hearing me, but my audience was not hearing me as well. I was looking at the VU meter and they couldn't hear me. So let's just try that one more time. So I'm going to turn off the Rode and I'm going to turn on the live output, but I'll try talking before turning on the output to see when it cancels it.
It's dead for me now.
As soon as I turned my microphone off going to you, that turned off my microphone also going to program out. So that's a problem. I want to keep talking to program out and that wasn't working. Let's have a look at this one over here. When I turn this one on, and that's on now, it's still going to program out and you're probably getting echo, am I correct?
Absolutely right. This echoing for me.
Okay, now we'll turn this off so that we try to get rid of the echo.
Yeah, and now it's dead silence again.
And as soon as I turned that off, my local microphone was not going to air anymore. So the design of what they're trying to do over here is really good, but the actual execution needs a little bit of work. The UI is fine, just need to get it to do what was intended. So let me get rid of that.
One good thing, I had some critics on small screens with the rendezvous stuff. If you're a guest and opening on a mobile device, I couldn't enter my name. I had to switch from landscape to portrait and forth and back to get the session up and running. And this has improved. It's still not optimal, but it's definitely better than it was before.
Yeah, so I don't know what they've specifically changed the timeout to, but one day I pressed the reconnect button and it actually worked the following day. So I was surprised by that. So that was good. So look, I think we've covered the main new things in Wirecast. We've also talked a little bit about routing today. Is there anything else you wanted to add this week, Jens?
Yeah, I mean, maybe there are some questions on YouTube regarding some network topics. I haven't followed the chat, to be honest. Maybe we can answer some stuff if there's some.
We've got Lutz there, and we've got only a couple of other people that are probably not networky geeks. So we'll see how we go. We'll give people an opportunity to ask questions, but if not, next week, if you've got a question and you want to ask it, we'll be back at our earlier time next week. So with that in mind, if there's nothing else for today, I'm going to comment with one last thing just before we finish, and I'll stop sharing my desktop at the moment. Let's try that again. There we go. I was going to say one more thing. This version of Wirecast has got a large number of fixes that remedy known crashes that happen where Wirecast crashes. So from a stability perspective, if you want to increase the stability of your broadcast and you're not going to do any of these new rendezvous things, definitely get this newer version. Having said that, however, just to share, I did have a crash before doing this broadcast today. That's being sent off to Wirecast in the near future. The root cause of that one was I was playing around with the YouTube output settings and something happened there. So hopefully I've sent them a core dump, and hopefully that'll be enough for them to find the root cause of that one and fix it. Last thoughts, Jens, going once, twice, three times?
Yeah, as I said, I think networking is very, very important, especially if you live stream. Have a good look at your devices. Make sure you understand your devices. Make sure you can treat things, can route things, can manipulate things. And then I think that you're in a good position to have a successful streaming experience and save some upload bandwidth, especially in areas where upload speed is kind of limited.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's about all we've got time for today. We've hit an hour just about, so we don't want to wear out our welcome. It's been fun chatting about Wirecast. I think we both like the product, and we want to continue to work with Telestream to improve in some of the areas that we've chatted about today. And certainly there's been some good progress in this particular release that we've got here at the moment. So if there's nothing else, thanks, Jens, for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, and see you in the forum, wherever, at some user meetings, where they ask questions. We are happy to answer.
Okay. Thank you, Jens. See you guys. Bye for now.
See you.